JPA가 사실 어렵다라는 이야기가 조금 남아 있어요. 그러다 보니까 신규로 시작하는 프로젝트에서는 JPA가 아니라 조금 더 경량화된 버전인 스프링 데이터 JDBC로 전환하려는 시도가 좀 있습니다. 스프링 데이터 JDBC를 블라드님은 어떻게 평가하시는지, 그리고 JPA나 주크와 같은 것들을 전통적으로 선택됐던 것들을 대체할 수 있다고 보시는지 좀 궁금합니다.
That's a very important question because for developers because we have so many alternatives. So, and sometimes it's very hard to know which one to take.
음,
And indeed, Spring Data JPA it's being used a lot. It's very popular because it comes by default with Spring Boot. And it's true that it has a very steep learning curve. So it has you, and sometimes it's surprising if you don't apply the proper mapping. Is it does some terrible performance issues, and every time people like to blame something. I mean, and you never hear a developer saying that I blame I blame the fact that I didn't read the manual. They always blame the tool. I blame this tool doesn't work. But have you read anything about it? No. And joke aside, I think that Spring Data JPA has been around for at least 8 9 years. So it's not like a new project because it's been here for quite some time. And actually, you can achieve a lot with Spring Data JPA, with Spring Data JDBC, with Juke. You can basically build the same project with all these technologies in the end. But there are pros and cons with each technology actually. And the problem with Spring Data JPA is that it has some apart from the fact that it lacks some features like multi-set in Juke and in place persistence with JPI, which allows you to fetch multiple collections at once without Cartesian products using JSON aggregation.
음,
It's a very, very nice concept, but Spring Data JPA, Spring Data JDBC doesn't have that. And it also has some very unexpected ways that uh, who complain about Hibernate will be surprised. They also have a way to fetch collections, but that's always eager loading. So you can also risk fetching more data than you want with Spring Data JDBC, believing that you are using something that will give you automatically better performance. If you don't check the actual queries, you will end up in the end, you will end up blaming Spring Data JDBC for the same thing, for the same reasons you were blaming Spring Data JPA. So I think that in the end, also this decision, if you want to take this decision, it's important to take it also based on the skills of the developers in your team. Because if you have like developers who are very very well versed into SQL, they know about performance, then it's great to use GDBC and Ju because they already have the knowledge. But if you have like Java developers who don't really understand databases, the only thing about SQL they know is that I don't know if you know that website W3 schools SQL, which is I've used it to learn SQL like 20 years ago, but it's the same. It hasn't changed a lot, and that's the level of SQL. Unfortunately, some developers consider that is sufficient, but it's not because you have window functions, common table expressions, pivots, JSON
음,
aggregations, and all sorts of things that you can use. So I would say that in the end, if you have like backend developers, senior developers who have been using successfully Spring Data JPA for 10 years now, I don't think that for them it's JPA is a problem anyway because
어,
they already know how to use it correctly. And also the more resources a technology has, the more chances AI can give you like a good answer. Because if you're using a technology that hasn't, AI doesn't have a lot of data to train on it, then it will just hallucinate about all. And I've seen it with all sort of
음,
technologies that are not well covered by resources. It's very hard to get AI to give you like a proper answer. But with Spring Data JPA, JPA and Juke because they've been around for almost 20 years. I mean, you have so many resources that AI has a very easy time to give you the answer. But in the end, I think pick up the tool and the technology that works best for you and your team. It doesn't have to be JPA. If you are proficient with plain JDBC, that's perfect. In the end, that's what you need. I mean, choose also based on your team, but never choose based on trends alone. That's not.
음, 되게 좋은 그 인사이트인데요. 말씀하신 대로 결국은 JPA와 하이버네이트는 오랫동안 사람들이 사용을 해왔기 때문에 AI가 학습할 만한 데이터가 충분히 많이 있고, 그렇기 때문에 AI를 더 적극적으로 쓰려면 오히려 뭐 스프링 데이터 JDBC가 뭐 최근 나온 건 아니지만 그럼에도 JPA나 하이버네이트에 비해서는 기간이 짧고 사용하는 프로젝트가 적기 때문에 AI가 학습할 데이터가 적어서 AI 도움을 더 확실하게 받고 싶다면 말씀하신 대로 오랫동안 사랑받고 오랫동안 많은 프로젝트에서 적용이 되어 왔던 JPA와 하이버네이트가 충분히 더 좋은 대안이고 요즘 시대에도 더 적합한 기술이라고 말씀을 해주셔가지고 저도 좀 그렇다는 생각이 드는데요. 음, 그러다 보니까 저 사실 블라드님의 답변을 듣다가 그 다음 이제 여덟 번째 질문과도 좀 연결되는 것 같은데 만약 AI가 학습할 데이터가 많아서 그게 정말로 AI 시대에도 충분히 도움이 되고 한다면 어차피 구현 자체는 AI가 충분히 많이 해주고 있다 보니까 그러면 프로젝트에서는 ORM을 쓰지 않고 SQL로 다 구현을 하고 테스트 코드만 좀 빡빡하게 잘 짜놓고 있으면 어차피 우리가 코드를 짜는 게 아니기 때문에 전체적인 메소드 시그니처만 잘 식별할 수 있게 하고 내부 구현은 뭐 크게 신경 쓰지 않고 작업한 테스트 코드 잘 통과하는지만 보고 이렇게만 하면 되니까 네이티브 SQL을 쓰는 게 ORM을 쓰는 것보다 요즘 시대에 더 맞는 방법은 아닐까라는 생각들을 이 답변을 들으신 분들은 아마도 생각을 하실 수도 있을 것 같습니다. 마침 저희가 또 사전에 나눴던 질문도 이 같은 질문이었기 때문에 블라드님은 어떻게 생각하시는지 궁금해요.
Yeah, that's a very important question. Also, because AI enables us now to approach a certain problem that previously was much more difficult. And you are right about what you said about database SQL, native SQL queries, and even JDBC. Because previously, you would have people that would have to manually write everything. And if you use JDBC, you had to manually write and do all sort of processing, and that would take a lot of time, and people would not like that. And we wanted to create abstractions that make people more productive, actually. And if you think about it, JPA, Hibernate, and Spring somehow they provide us better productivity and more convenience. And if you can, if you're comfortable with SQL and if you want something that is very lightweight, I think that JDBC and using AI with JDBC, it's a great combination. But then we have to understand that Hibernate and JPA are not just ORMs actually, because you can have that they provide the object relational mapping, but they provide you with much more than that, and people sometimes overlook this. And there is a book from Martin Fowler that he published in Patterns of Enterprise Application,
어,
something like that, for architecture. It's a very good book. And what's interesting about it is that it was published around the same time Hibernate was also the first version of Hibernate, or at least the first versions of Hibernate. And then in Martin Fowler's book, you can find there a lot of patterns that are present in JP and Hibernate, and they were designed to cover all sort of things that JPA in plain SQL they don't have actually. And I can give you some examples. So for instance, you have for concurrency control, you have optimistic locking. You don't have that in JDBC by default. You have ways to express pessimistic locking in a unified way. And beside that, you have things like the batching that is automatic batching that you can apply. Also, if you if you want to have implement like the strategy pattern and also have persistence, and we apply that, you can use this inheritance. And I try to tell people, so you can view Hibernate just like a collection of patterns that you can use. So you have optimistic locking, pessimistic locking, inheritance over databases. You have first level cache, and the first level cache can help you fetch
Mm,
collections progressively one after the other to avoid the Cartesian products. It gives you with some things that otherwise with plain JDBC you don't have. And writing like a multi-set query without Juke or without Blaze persistence with plain JDBC is doable, but it's very difficult to write, very hard to maintain. So there are still implementations in JP and Hive features that you don't have in JDBC. But if you choose, if you are fine not to use any of them, any of those features, if you don't need them, then of course you can use plain JDBC using with AI now. It's very convenient. But otherwise, if you believe that all those patterns that have been implemented and battle tested for 20 years, if you believe they provide you with value, I think that you can still use Spring Data JPA. Having repositories, query method names, it's still very useful.
그러네요. 그러니까 ORM은 단순히 SQL을 그냥 자바 클래스로 작성해주는 것의 어떤 편의성으로서의 목적이 아니라 20년 동안 축적되어 온 데이터베이스 혹은 JDBC가 해주지 못했던 굉장히 많은 기능들을 이미 이 하이버네트와 JPA에서 해주고 있고, 그게 20년 동안 수많은 사람들이 그 기능을 사용을 해보면서 버그도 수정을 하고 성능 최적화도 하고, 뭐 필요하면 없던 기능인 1차 캐시, 2차 캐시 같은 것들도 넣으면서 AI가 만약에 내가 낙관적 잠금을 사용을 해야 된다고 했을 때, 그걸 AI에게 맡기면 AI가 작업한 그 기능을 내가 검증을 해야 되지만, 그냥 JPA와 하이버네이트에 있는 그 기능을 쓰기만 하면 낙관적 기능을 그냥 사용하는 거니까, 이건 확률론적인 구현이 아닌 거고, 무조건 작동되는 정상적인 패턴의 어떤 구현 방법이기 때문에, 그런 면에서도 JDBC의 한계, 데이터베이스의 한계를 돌파한 검증된 기술로서의 JPA가 굉장히 유용하다는 의미라서 되게 말씀해주신 것에서 완전히 공감이 좀 많이 됩니다. 한국에서도 아직까지도 ORM에 대한 오해를 많이 하시는 분들이 계시는데, 이번에 블라드님의 답변을 듣고 많은 분들이 이 ORM에 대한 오해를 다시 한번 풀어보시면 좋을 것 같아요. 네, 좋습니다. 자, 그러면 저희 9번째 질문으로 갈 건데, 요즘은 실제로 어떻게 개발하시나요, 블라드님? 그 AI 때문에 아마 예전처럼 인텔리제에서 직접 타이핑을 막 이렇게 치시진 않을 것 같고, 어떤 AI 코딩 도구와 어떤 AI 모델을 사용을 하시는지, 그리고 AI에게는 구현을 어디까지 맡기시는지가 궁금합니다.
So yeah, I think this is a very popular question these days because there are so many models, so many tools, and it's I think that it's just I can give you the tools that I'm using. I'm not sure whether they are the best because I haven't tried all of them. First of all, I can tell you that there are still projects that I'm developing and I'm not using AI at all on them. For instance, high persistence optimizer, I don't use any AI because I know how to implement it. I want to know everything that I'm doing by hand there because I want to remember every little thing about it because it's very, very important for me. I don't want to speed up development for some tools. Also for open source, I have an open source project, high persistence utils. I don't use any AI for it because it doesn't require a lot of effort. It doesn't require a lot of many changes in order to maintain it. So I don't use AI for that. But I'm using AI, for instance, for when I'm building like a demo project to build it faster, and then I will have to come back to it to fix and to revise it, and I still have to understand everything about it, especially if I'm using the demo to deliver a presentation. You still have to, even if AI writes it in the end, you still have to know everything that's in it. So you speed up a little bit the creation, but then you are going to spend a lot of time reviewing it and changing it manually. And I'm also using AI not only for development, I'm using it for aggregating data, for like creating plans and summaries to analyze a lot of information and try to see gaps in it. So I can give you an example. I'm using Claude Code most of the time. Using Claude Code. I'm using Claude Code in CLI mode to generate from LaTeX for my PhD to generate the PDFs and to see whether because you know about LaTeX, it's very difficult to write in it and I tell it sometimes it doesn't work and I tell Claude Code why it doesn't work. I don't understand. Can you add this reference because it has that very difficult syntax and I'm using for this kind of stuff because it makes my life easier. At least for me, I don't think that coding was always the things that was taking us the most of the time because programming and software developing is more like a thinking business. It's more like a knowledge work. And you most of the time you have to think, you have to understand what the clients want, you have to understand whether a feature is really worth to implement it, how can we implement it safely, how is it now the right time to implement it, maybe we should delay it, and you have to talk with a lot of people. Most of the time we were discussing, talking, trying to find to really understand the problem, and then the development time would take us like 10-50% of the time, and AI optimizes that optimizes that 10-15%, but it doesn't really change the process in which we think and we analyze whether something is really, I mean, you can implement it, but is it worth implementing it? I mean, and that's I would say in the end it's something that we should it's part of the process for us to how we adjust our development process to AI.
그러네요. 어떻게 보면 진짜 뭐 라텍스 같이 문법이 어렵고 배우기 막 귀찮고 막 그런 것들은 이제 AI 도움을 받겠지만 결국은 내가 진짜 본질적으로 잘 해야 되는 영역은 검증조차도 내가 해야 되기 때문에 구석구석구석을 내가 직접 다 구현을 해보면서 그것들을 다 내 머릿속 기억을 하고 그런 과정을 통해서 사고도 하고 그리고 이 더 고민을 깊게 하는 것이 사실 진짜 더 잘 활용하는 방법이라고 좀 생각이 들기도 하네요. 네. 그냥 어차피 예전에도 구현 자체가, 코드 작성 자체가 많은 시간을 쓰진 않았고, 결국은 고객에 대한 이해, 우리 시스템에 대한 이해, 검증, 이런 것들이 더 많은 시간을 썼기 때문에, 그건 뭐 지금도 사람이 해야 되는 게 똑같기 때문에, AI가 생각하신 거, 지금 영상을 보시는 분들이 보는 것만큼, 그렇게까지 모든 영역에서 다 사용할 수 있지는 않을 수도 있겠다라는 생각이 들기도 합니다. 이게 사실 워낙 AI 네이티브, AI 얘기가 많다 보니까 한국에서도 그렇고 몇몇 국가에서 이야기를 들어보면 예전에 자바 엔터프라이즈 환경을 좋아했던 분들도 요즘은 타입스크립트 기반의 풀스택 엔지니어링에 관심이 굉장히 좀 많아졌습니다. 그러니까 타입스크립트라고 하는 하나의 언어로 웹 프론트엔드, 뭐 백엔드, 모바일 앱까지를 모두 다 커버하고 npm의 생태계 라이브러리가 워낙 또 많고 원하는 웬만한 라이브러리가 다 있기도 하고요. 그리고 버셀이나 클라우드 플레이어 같은 이제 플랫폼들이 워낙 노드 환경을 잘 지원을 하기도 하니까요. 요즘 같은 시대에서 그래도 여전히 우리의 시스템을 자바 생태계로 구축하는 것이 큰 이점이 있다고 한다면 그게 무엇일까요?
Yeah, it's a very good question, this one. And also, I think that Node.js and TypeScript and the ecosystem have evolved a lot. Now you can build a lot of things using it. And I can give you an example. For instance, when we used it like 10 years ago before when I worked at a company and they wanted us to implement everything in JavaScript. And I can give you an example. Like this is I didn't know was possible at the time. We had to implement like a heat map. So we have like a three-dimensional map for sensor data. So you have three dimensions. And they said, okay, so we implemented it. We found the library to implement, and they said, okay, but now I want to zoom through it. So you need to implement digital scrolling. But that they require some mathematical calculation. Then we had like a mathematician who told us, yeah, you need to use fast Fourier transformations, fast Fourier transformation from mathematics. And but you were using JavaScript. How can we do that? And I found FFT.js. So it was amazing that you can do that using JavaScript. So you can do a lot of things with JavaScript. However, for an enterprise, I think that there are still a lot of so for Java, when we say Java, it's not just the programming language because the programming language, the syntax, I would say it's not the most appealing. People prefer sometimes they prefer other syntaxes which are less verbose than Java. But the strength of Java, it's the ecosystem actually, is both the JVM and the ecosystem. The ecosystem because you have a lot of very battle tested frameworks for all sorts of things. And I can give you some examples for high frequency trading. There are companies that do high frequency trading, so they place the orders, the buy and sell orders on the market. They have to operate in microsecond range, and they take advantage of the fact that there are some discrepancies between the stock markets. And most of these companies, you would believe that they use C and C++ because that's the fastest way you can write a program, but they don't. They use Java. And you ask, how is it possible? Because Java is supposed to be slower than C. And they have they basically work off heap, and they have so many tools that they created, professional tools. And I asked someone about this, and he said that he's basically using the same concept of C but implementing in Java, but it's simpler for him to avoid having to count pointers and have all sorts of issues because of pointers in C. And I think it applies to JavaScript as well. If an ecosystem has evolved, and it's the case of Java around the enterprise for so many years, it's very hard to replace it because even the drivers, the JDBC drivers, the ORM frameworks, the dependency inject, the way we're writing integration tests, and it's not just the programming language, we have a way of working. I mean, in all these enterprise projects, it's very common to see that you have integration tests, performance tests. We have all sorts of things that we put together. Also, the dependency management is, I would say, safer in Java than it's in AIM NPM. So I think that in the end, I don't see that Java is irrelevant because it keeps on changing and evolving, and it's still it has its place, but it has its place in very close to enterprise systems because I would say for the web, you still see a lot of PHP actually, and for NPM and JavaScript is used like for full stack applications. You can build a lot of it, but in the end, it's still not the same. I mean, you don't hear that Google changed from Java to JavaScript to implement everything in JavaScript because there's no real business gain in doing that.
되게 작은 규모에서의 프로젝트에서는 뭐 모르겠지만 여전히 엔터프라이즈에서는 자바 생태계가 워낙에 막강하고 오랫동안 검증되어 있는 프레임워크와 라이브러리가 많기 때문에 이점이 되게 많은 것 같고, 그리고 요즘은 특히나 AI로 해킹하기가 너무 쉽고 공급망 공격이 워낙 심해졌기 때문에 npm 패키지 시스템들이 너무 보안에 취약하고 많은 해커들이 시도하는 생태계가 돼버린 것 같더라고요. 그런 면에서는 자바 생태계는 여전히 조금 기업에겐 좀 유리한 면이 많은 것 같습니다. 예. 좋습니다. 네. 그러면 이건 이제 앞에서 블라드님이 AI를 어떻게 쓰시는지에 대해서 질문을 드리다가 또 추가적으로 궁금해진 건데, 블라드님은 AI를 가지고 코드를 그래도 작성을 조금이라도 하실 것 같기는 한데, 아예 안 하시는지는 좀 궁금한데, AI가 테스트 코드를 작성을 하고 사람이 메인 코드를 구현하는 방식이 첫 번째. 두 번째는 인간이 일단은 요구사항에 맞춰서 검증 수단인 테스트 코드를 다 짜고 AI가 메인 코드를 구현하는 방식이 이제 두 번째. 그리고 세 번째는 셋 다 AI가 작성한다가 이제 있는데, 한국에서는 어떻게 하는 것이 가장 좋을까에 대한 논쟁이 굉장히 많습니다. 예, 블라더님은 어떤 방법이 좋다고 보시나요? 아니면 그냥 네 번째인 테스트 코드와 메인 코드 둘 다 내가 작성한다. 또 있을 것 같은데, 앞에 답변을 들었을 때는 블라드님은 왠지 4번일 것 같긴 한데, 이제 어떻게 생각하시는지 궁금합니다.
So yes, I think this question. It's also based on, it's a matter of preference in the team, the way based on their skills and way, and also I think in order to
음,
answer this question, we have to also put into perspective what is the stage our product development is in. Because if we are in the prototype stage, I think that we can involve AI more because we want to be as fast as
음,
possible on the market and to launch as fast as possible. And then we have because we don't have a lot of code, we it's not really a problem to rewrite modules and do a lot of things using AI. But if we have a system that has been in use for
음,
tens of years, like for a bank or for an insurance company, you still have to develop some features, but not so many features, because from time to time you still have to do a lot of maintenance. And there, I don't think that there's so much need to speed up development using AI. And there you have to implement more tests to make sure that every change that you doesn't break anything. So
음,
I think there, I mean, if AI writes the implementation and also AI writes the test, I think that for me at least, I'm not sure that I'm very comfortable that AI is going to catch AI mistakes. And at least you can use different you can use different models. But I've seen when there were mistakes and AI couldn't find it. Also, AI can check the code base, but it doesn't necessarily knows everything, like unless it has access to everything, like emails, Slack, Teams, Confluence, everything that you've
음,
exchanged. But even then, there are still some things that people discuss among themselves, at the water cooler discussions or in the kitchen area. And they talk about things, and AI doesn't know about
음,
those decisions and preferences. And in the end, I still believe that there is a part where people should still write tests, or at least write the test that they really want to be sure that something is really well implemented. And I think this is especially important in the stage where you're doing maintenance on a project that has been launched several years ago. If you're starting now, I think that you have more freedom to use AI and agents as much as possible. But in the end, I don't think that using AI in a loop, like Anthropic said that they develop cloud code, it's only agents, and but you ask yourself then, why are they still hiring? They're hiring a lot of people. So if AI generates everything there, why are you still hiring people? And they pay a lot of great salaries to hire people.
음,
So I would take all those advices with a grain of salt, because I mean, they have their own interest into making you believe that you can implement everything with AI because they want you to buy their IPO stock. But in the end, I would be more. I would say I want to take like little steps in this AI adoption, especially if you're a company that doesn't want to make business mistakes. I don't think that you want to rush this, because we have to understand that for a business, in order for a
음,
business to thrive, you need to take into consideration a lot of things. And one of those, as I said before, is trust. Is you don't want to launch something that has some really terrible bugs that will scare all your clients, because if you lose that trust, people will start questioning, well, I mean, is my money safe? Is my credit card data safe with you? I mean,
음,
who runs the show there? Is a human or is AI? I don't. For me personally, I don't really want my bank to use AI as much as possible. I want to have people, human beings, to to validate as much as possible things, because I don't want them to take chances on my behalf in the end. You have to think also about the clients, not just us. So, it's nice that we want to optimize and to increase productivity, but we should do it in a reasonable way and not take
음.
unnecessary risks in the end.
은행에서 만든 서비스가 다 AI의 바이브 코딩으로 만들어졌다고 하면 그 은행에 돈을 맡길 수 있는 사람이 과연 얼마나 있을까라는 생각이 좀 들기도 하고, 블라드님 말씀처럼 초기에 아직 사업이 확실하지 않을 때는 많은 시도를 해야 되니 AI가 적극적으로 개입을 하되, 이미 사업이 안정화되어 있고 안정성이 훨씬 더 중요한 이제 좀 시기에는, 그때는 사람이 최대한 많이 검증을 하고, 정말로 만약에 해야 된다면 테스트 코드 검증은 전부 다 사람이 일단 무조건 해야 되는 그런 형태로 일을 하기는 해야 되겠네요. 저도 완전 많이 동의하고, 이제 아마도 한국에 계신 많은 분들도 정말로 검증을 AI가 하는 것이 맞는가에 대해서 진짜 많이 고민을 하게 만드는 어떤 답변이었던 것 같아요. 자, 그러면 저희가 이제 1시간 반 정도 대화를 나눈 것 같은데, 이제 질문을 좀 마무리하려고 합니다. 혹시 그 마지막 질문인데요. 블라드님의 다음 목표는 또 무엇일지 아마 한국에 계신 많은 팬분들에게 좀 이야기를 해주시면 좋을 것 같습니다.
Oh, so thank you very much for this question. I think that I hint I made a hint before about me going back to school to do my PhD. So I'm actually doing quite a lot there. So I'm writing scientific articles. I just submitted one scientific article. I will have to work on two more for a conference. So I would say for the next 2 years, that's something that I really want to finish because it's based on the work that I've been doing over the past 12 years. So I'm just taking a lot of things that I developed, but never got to the point where I could publish it for a scientific journal. So I want to take that and to do all the work that's necessary to make it available for everyone, to a much larger audience. So I would think that's one milestone. Other milestones basically include probably I still believe that there is a need for training, because if you want to have people to validate AI, you need to train people to be able to understand whether AI gives you the right answer or not. So I believe that training and courses are still going to be valuable for companies. So probably I will do something in that regard. Maybe work on the second edition of my book that I've been postponing over and over for too long. So yeah, I think that the problem with the book is that I have to write it by hand without AI, and it takes a very long time, very long time. First of all, I don't want to write it with AI. I want to write everything by hand in that, because I don't believe that anyone wants to pay for something that's generated by AI. No, they want something where the human being wrote everything letter by letter there. So yeah, it takes a long time, but yeah, some things cannot be automated. They still have to be done that way.
아마 이 영상을 보시는 분들은 놀라실 수 있겠지만, 여러분, 블라드님은 앞으로 내실 강의도, 책도, 블로그 글도 그 모든 것들을 여전히 계속해서 직접 본인이 만드신다고 하시고, 최소한 이 컨텐츠를 구매하시는 분들, 보시는 분들에게 AI로 만들어진 검증되지 않은 환각이 가득한 그런 컨텐츠를 제공하고 싶지 않다는, 요즘 시대에 정말 보기 드문 장인 정신을 가지고 계신 진짜 소프트웨어 장인을 뵀던 것 같습니다, 여러분. 그러니까 블라드님의 강의는 혹은 블라드님의 책은 여러분 믿고 구매하셔도 될 것 같습니다. 블라드님, 그럼 이제 진짜로 이제 마지막으로 인사를 드려야 될 것 같은데요. 한국에는 사실 블라드님의 팬이 정말 많고, 이제 작년에 인프런에 이제 강의를 올려주시면서 이제 많은 팬분들이 이제 블라드님의 강의를 수강하시고 이제 블라드님을 더 많이 아시게 된 것 같아요. 그래서 마지막으로 한국에 계신 블라드님의 팬들과 그리고 수강생분들에게 한 말씀 좀 부탁드리겠습니다.
Oh, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I want first of all to thank everyone who basically had the confidence to buy the courses that we launched, and it's just yes, 1 year ago in April. It was just in April, and we managed to sell almost 1,500 copies of the course. And if you put that into perspective compared to how I sold in the English version of the course by myself, I think it's on the same par, which is amazing, amazing when in such a short span of time. I also liked that people were writing real feedback with pros and cons, which allowed us to improve improve the content even more, especially the translation. And I hope that I basically get the newsletter, although it's in Korean, so I have to translate it using Google Translate. And I like the way that I like the way it's written. I like that people are engaged. And I see on the platform that there are so many courses that are being launched. And that, for me, that tells me that there's a very vibrant community of developers in Korea that wants to learn, wants to get better. And I want to congratulate you for that, because that's the in the end that's the right attitude. And I think that for us, at least, the fact that we were able to provide you this content that I created in Korean, in Japanese, in Chinese, in Vietnamese, I think this is the right approach, because at the end of the day, I think that it's much better to do it this way, instead of believing that everyone will learn English. Because I think that as hard as it is for me to learn Korean, I think it's the same for you to learn English. So I can only imagine that it would take me, like, I don't know, 5 years. So it takes much less of an effort for us to provide this content. So I want to thank you for believing and trusting this. And if there's if there's a second edition of the book or any course, don't worry about it. I'm going to be in contact with the Influence platform in InfLab, and we are going to translate it for you.
감사합니다. 저희도 이제 인프런 서비스를 운영하는 저희 입장에서도 블라드님과 함께 했던 지난 1년의 여정들이 정말로 좀 꿈 같은 여정이기는 했거든요. 그리고 한국에 계신 많은 분들도 와, 블라드님의 이 강의를 드디어 이제 한국어로 볼 수 있다니라는 그 생각에 정말로 많은 분들이 고마워하고 감사한 마음을 표현을 해주셨습니다. 그래서 앞으로도 이제 인프런에서는 이제 블라드님의 많은 강의들, 많은 지식들, 그리고 이런 인터뷰까지도 계속해서 이제 한국과 일본, 베트남, 뭐 중국까지도 다 전달해 드릴 거고, 좀 더 나아간다면 뭐 힌디어를 사용하는 뭐 인도가 될 수도 있을 것 같고요. 더 많은 국가와 뭐 나라에게 저희는 이제 블라드님의 요 강의와 컨텐츠들을 계속 공유하기로 하고, 블라드님도 계속해서 직접 만드신 웰메이드한 어떤 지식들을 계속 만들어 주실 것을 기대하겠습니다. 그러면 블라드님 긴 시간 고생 많으셨습니다. 수고하셨습니다.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
for having me.